Each recorded action speaks volumes. Every close observation uncovers facts. Protecting your civil rights, revealing definitive justice.
What do you think you're doing out here? You don't belong on this property!
I'm relaxing by my pool.
Your pool. I know the owners of this house, and you're not one of them. You're trespassing!
Ma'am, I own this house. Bought it 3 years ago. Check the address plaque by the...
At exactly 2:17 p.m., a 911 call came in from a quiet cul-de-sac that had never seen a crime report in 20 years. The caller, a woman named Linda Merrick, was pacing her front lawn, phone pressed tightly to her ear, her eyes darting toward the sparkling pool just a few houses down. "There's a black woman, I don't know, in the pool. I think she broke in," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and indignation. She had no idea that the woman she was reporting had legally owned the house for 3 years. She had no idea that the woman was the city's police chief. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The afternoon sun glinted off the water as Jocelyn Harper, 45, dipped her hands beneath the surface, letting the cool water wash away the stress of a long morning of paperwork and briefings at headquarters. Harper, a veteran of over 20 years in law enforcement, had moved into the house quietly, relishing the privacy that came with her corner property. No flashy signs, no introductions to neighbors, just her and her pool, and a rare moment of calm in a world that constantly demanded authority. Meanwhile, Linda Merrick, 38, stared from across the street, her mind racing with a narrative she had built entirely in her own assumptions. She was a lifelong resident of the cul-de-sac, known for her vigilant neighbor attitude. The same woman who had called the HOA last year about suspicious packages left on driveways. The same woman who once phoned the police because a delivery truck parked too long outside her gate. Linda's reputation for calling authorities at the slightest perceived disturbance preceded her, and she wielded it like a badge of righteousness. From her position behind the hedges, Linda's eyes narrowed. She didn't recognize the face floating in the pool. She didn't check the mailbox to confirm ownership. All she saw was a black woman in a wealthy, predominantly white neighborhood, and that was enough. She picked up her phone, hands trembling slightly, not from fear, she would later insist, but from the urgency of protecting her community. When the first officers arrived minutes later, the tension in the air was palpable. Jocelyn, still in her pool, looked up to see patrol cars glinting under the sun, officers approaching with hands poised onto their belts. Their expressions were cautious, alert, but there was also an unspoken assumption lingering in the way they scanned her body and her surroundings. These were seasoned officers, but assumptions are quick, and in that quiet cul-de-sac, assumptions had weight. Linda stepped closer to the gate, her voice rising as she shouted to the arriving officers, "She doesn't belong here! I saw her in the pool!" Her gestures were sharp, insistent, accusatory. The officers hesitated, glancing between the caller and the woman in the water. They didn't know yet that Jocelyn Harper had once led major homicide investigations, coordinated citywide task forces, and trained dozens of officers in tactical response. They didn't know that calling 911 on her could escalate into one of the most awkward and tense situations of their careers. Jocelyn, calm but wary, climbed out of the pool, water cascading down her uniform of casual summerwear, and stepped toward the gate. Her voice, steady and commanding, broke the rising panic. "Good afternoon, officers. Is there an issue?" Linda's eyes widened, her indignation bristling at the unexpected politeness, but she refused to step back. You're not supposed to be here. I saw you in my neighborhood, in someone else's pool." Jocelyn raised an eyebrow, glancing around. "This is my property," she said simply, letting the words settle like a weight. "I've lived here for 3 years." The officers shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't how they expected the situation to unfold. Their training had not prepared them for being caught between a hyper-vigilant neighbor and the city's own police chief, someone who had the authority, the knowledge, and the calm to control the narrative entirely. The tension was thick, almost cinematic. The kind of moment that, if caught on camera, would leave viewers asking how civility could unravel so quickly over assumptions. Linda, however, was undeterred. She continued to gesture, voice rising with frustration, insisting that action be taken. And in that moment, the first crack in judgment appeared. Officers ready to respond to what was, in reality, a baseless accusation. The narrative of suspicion was stronger than the reality of truth, and truth, in that cul-de-sac, would have to fight to be heard. It was clear from the first minutes that this afternoon would not end quietly. One neighbour's assumptions, one woman's misperception, and a city's highest-ranking law enforcement officer, all converging by a single pool, set the stage for a confrontation that would ripple far beyond the quiet cul-de-sac. If you believe that standing up for what's right can change everything, share this story and let others know that justice can prevail. The afternoon sun seemed almost cruel, beating down on the poolside where Jocelyn Harper stood, dripping water, arms crossed, and eyes locked on Linda Merrick, who had now fully abandoned any pretense of civility. Linda's face was flushed with indignation, her voice rising higher with every second. "You think you can just waltz into a neighborhood that isn't yours?" Linda spat, her words sharp as glass. "I don't care if you say you own the place. You don't look like you belong here. This is my community, and I know what I'm seeing." Jocelyn's expression didn't change. She let the words hang in the air, heavy with accusation, while her mind catalogued the situation with the precision of someone who had spent decades leading investigations. Every syllable Linda uttered betrayed fear, entitlement, and an ignorance that bordered on arrogance. But Jocelyn also recognized the danger. A neighbour's prejudice coupled with the authority of police could escalate quickly. Linda stepped closer to the pool's edge, leaning over the gate as if proximity alone could assert dominance. "I see you laughing there," she sneered, voice trembling with anger. "You think this is funny? Black people like you, always acting like they're better than everyone else. You need to get out of here before I make this a problem you can't handle." Her words carried venom, each one an insult sharpened by years of bias. The officers shifted uneasily behind her, their eyes flicking between Jocelyn and Linda, unsure whether to intervene or let the confrontation unfold. They could sense the hostility, the undercurrent of racial tension that no procedure manual could have fully prepared them for. Jocelyn exhaled slowly, letting calmness become a shield. "I'm not acting like anything," she said evenly, her voice cutting through the noise. "This is my home. I've lived here for 3 years. You are the one trespassing, in your assumptions and in your words." Linda's reaction was immediate and furious. She stomped her foot and fists clenched and shouted, "Don't you dare lecture me! You don't get to talk down to me. I'm a concerned neighbour and you're the problem here. You're always trying to act like you're above the law." The words hit like lightning across the serene cul-de-sac. A few curious neighbours peeked through blinds and curtains, sensing the drama but uncertain how to intervene. Linda's insults weren't just directed at Jocelyn, they were directed at every expectation of fairness and civility in the street. One officer, caught in the middle, tried to calm the situation. "Ma'am, please, let's just—" "No," Linda snapped, cutting him off. "Don't tell me what to do. I'm protecting my neighbourhood. I don't care who she says she is." It was then that Jocelyn stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, letting her presence dominate without a single raised hand. The water dripping from her arms glinted in the sun as if marking her authority. "You are harassing me," she said quietly, almost conversationally, yet the weight of command that left the officers frozen. "You are mistaken about every assumption you've made." Linda's eyes widened, and for a fraction of a second the confidence faltered. But pride quickly surged back. "I don't care what you say. You're the problem here. One of those people who thinks rules don't apply to them. Well, not in my neighbourhood." Jocelyn's calm demeanour contrasted sharply with the raw, chaotic energy that Linda emitted. The officers exchanged glances, knowing that the tension was escalating beyond a simple misunderstanding. Every insult, every accusation from Linda was a thread being pulled, threatening to unravel a neighbourhood that had seemed peaceful for decades. From the street, a faint click of a camera phone could be heard, a neighbour capturing the confrontation in silence. The potential for viral fallout was already present, though none of the participants knew to do it yet. Linda continued undeterred, her words cutting deeper. "I should have called the cops sooner. You're the kind of person who doesn't belong anywhere, and I'm done pretending otherwise." Jocelyn Harper remained composed, letting Linda's anger burn itself out while subtly assessing how to regain control without force. Her training, her experience, and her patience were her allies. One misstep from Linda, or even the officers, could turn this confrontation into something far worse. The tension was a living thing in the cul-de-sac. The sun reflected off the pool, off the polished tiles, and off the hardening expressions of a woman who refused to see the truth. The officers, caught between procedure and prejudice, were silent observers. Meanwhile, Linda Merrick, driven by suspicion and bias, continued her verbal assault, oblivious to the fact that the woman she sought to control had spent decades ensuring that people like her couldn't harm others without consequence. It was clear that this confrontation was no longer just about a pool or a neighborhood. It had become a collision of perception versus reality, authority versus entitlement, calm versus chaos. By now, the quiet cul-de-sac had transformed into a stage for a confrontation that no one had expected. Linda Merrick was no longer pacing. She was fuming, gesturing wildly, her voice rising so sharply it carried across the street. "You think just because you're some big-shot police chief you can flaunt it?" she barked. "Well, I see right through you. You don't belong here and you never will." Jocelyn Harper remained calm, her wet hair clinging to her shoulders, water dripping from her arms. But beneath her composed exterior, she was calculating every possible angle. She had faced tense situations before, hostile suspects, violent crowds, and skeptical colleagues, but never quite like this. Never with a civilian, fueled by prejudice, challenging her authority in her own backyard. Linda didn't wait for a response. She leaned closer to the pool's edge, voice now dripping with venom. "You think you're untouchable. People like you always think they're better than everyone else. I see you laughing at us, looking down on us. Well, not in my neighborhood, not while I'm standing here." A few neighbors cautiously stepped outside, keeping their distance but craning their necks to witness the escalating drama. Phones appeared in hands, some curious, others horrified. The officers, meanwhile, were tense. They had been trained for conflict, but this was a minefield. Every word from Linda could provoke escalation. Every calm response from Jocelyn was a subtle assertion of authority, a quiet challenge to Linda's entitlement. Jocelyn finally spoke, her voice deliberate and cutting. "Your assumptions are dangerous. You've called the police on me based solely on the color of my skin and your refusal to verify facts. This isn't vigilance, it's harassment." Linda's face contorted with disbelief. "Harassment? You're joking. I'm protecting everyone else from people like you. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the chief. I don't care." She waved her arms wildly, pointing at Jocelyn as if that alone could push her out of the pool. "You don't belong here. You're always sneaking into places you're not wanted, thinking your money and your title make you untouchable." It was clear that Linda had crossed a line. Her words were no longer just insults, they were personal attacks, laced with racial prejudice, entitlement, and the false authority she imagined for herself as a concerned neighbor. Each sentence she hurled was a spark threatening to ignite a fire in what had been a quiet, sunny afternoon. Jocelyn's patience, honed over decades of high-pressure law enforcement work, remained intact, but only just. Her gaze was sharp, unflinching. "I own this house. I am within my rights. Your actions are not protecting anyone. They are violating the law and basic decency. Step back or this situation will escalate further and the responsibility will be on you." Linda's eyes narrowed and she shouted louder, her voice quivering with fury and disbelief. "Step back? I'm not stepping back. I won't be intimidated by someone who thinks they're above the rules. You're the kind of person who ruins neighborhoods, who flaunts everything while the rest of us play by the rules." The officers glanced at one another, uneasy. They could feel the tension snapping like a rubber band. One wrong move, one misinterpreted gesture, and this confrontation could spiral out of control. The pool, once a symbol of calm and privacy, had become a boundary line, a stage for a clash of perception versus reality. From the street, someone muttered under their breath, a recording device capturing every word. "This is insane! She's crazy!" But Linda's fury was impervious to reason. She leaned over the gate, her face inches from Jocelyn's, screaming, "I see right through you! You're not a good person, not for this neighborhood, not for anyone! You think your badge means you can do whatever you want." Jocelyn's voice, steady and commanding, cut through the chaos. "I don't need my badge to prove that you are in the wrong. Your actions speak for themselves. Every insult, every false accusation, every call to 911 without cause. These are your choices, not mine." Linda's face twisted with rage. She spat the words as if they were physical blows. "You people think the world owes you respect just because of your position. Not here, not today. You will not intimidate me. You will not make me silent." The tension hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, like the calm before a storm. Officers stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene physically or allow the verbal duel to play out. Jocelyn, calm yet commanding, was a force of quiet authority. Linda, aggressive and prejudiced, was a storm of uncontrolled anger. And the neighborhood watched, caught in the middle of a clash that no one could have predicted. The air in the cul-de-sac had grown thick with tension, as if the sun itself had paused to witness what was unfolding. Linda Merrick was still leaning over the gate, voice shrill, insults flowing like fire. "You don't belong here! You're a liar! You're—" But before she could finish, Jocelyn Harper stepped forward, fully out of the pool now, water still dripping from her hair and shoulders. Her calm presence was magnetic, commanding attention not through force but through sheer authority. The officers behind Linda shifted, suddenly aware of the irony. They were standing on the side of the woman Linda had been verbally assaulting. Jocelyn didn't shout. She didn't raise her hands. Instead, she did something far more powerful. She produced her identification card, holding it steadily in front of her. "This is me," she said evenly. "I am Jocelyn Harper, Chief of Police for this city, and this is my property." For a moment, silence fell like a curtain. Linda's eyes widened, her face draining of colour as her body swayed slightly on the balls of her feet. What? She stammered, voice faltering. The words that had flown so freely moments ago now lodged painfully in her throat. She had called the police on the very person responsible for enforcing the law, the one who had built her career on holding people accountable, and she hadn't even realised it. The officers exchanged glances, some trying not to smirk, others struggling to maintain professional composure. They had arrived thinking they were responding to a routine call about a suspicious individual, only to discover that the suspicious individual outranked every uniformed officer present. Linda's bluster, her insults, and her assumptions collided headfirst with reality, and it was devastating. Jocelyn's calm continued, unshaken by Linda's reaction. "You have made a public accusation based on assumptions. You have harassed me in my own home, and you have called officers unnecessarily. Do you understand the seriousness of what you have done?" Linda opened her mouth, but no words came. Her confidence, built over decades of believing her vigilance was unquestionable, had crumbled in the span of a heartbeat. The other neighbours had emerged from behind blinds and curtains, whispering among themselves, recording, realising that karma was unfolding live. Jocelyn continued, voice firm but measured. "I will be filing a formal complaint regarding your behaviour today. Your actions not only wasted police resources but also caused unnecessary distress. You will be held accountable for harassment and false reporting." Linda's hands trembled, her posture shrinking as though trying to disappear entirely. I thought... "You thought based on bias," Jocelyn said quietly, cutting through her excuses. "Thinking does not excuse harming others. Prejudice is not protection." A nearby neighbour finally spoke, unable to contain themselves. "Linda, maybe you should just step back." Their words barely reached her as she struggled to comprehend the gravity of her actions. One of the officers gently placed a hand on Linda's shoulder, guiding her back toward the sidewalk. "Ma'am, it's best if you cooperate. Let's handle this the right way." For Linda, the humiliation was total. Her assumptions, her insults, her sense of superiority, all exposed in the harsh light of truth. And worse, it wasn't just private embarrassment. Cameras from neighbours' phones had captured the entire spectacle. Within hours, the clip would go viral, a cautionary tale of prejudice, entitlement, and the danger of assumptions. Meanwhile, Jocelyn Harper returned to her pool, dipping her hands into the cool water, letting calm wash over her once more. She had not raised her voice, she had not acted violently, yet justice had unfolded in real time. One neighbour's insistence on being right had collided with the reality of authority, experience, and truth, and it had spectacularly backfired. Linda Merrick was escorted back toward her own home, muttering under her breath, pale and defeated. The officers stayed for a few more minutes, ensuring that no further confrontation would occur, and then quietly left. The cul-de-sac slowly returned to its usual quiet. Jocelyn stayed in her backyard, watching the sunlight ripple across the water. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Karma had done the work, and the lesson had been delivered in a way that would resonate far beyond that street. The balance had been restored, and a woman's home and dignity were rightfully defended, not with anger but with composure, authority, and truth. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the story of that afternoon would echo, a vivid reminder that assumptions prejudice, and insults can carry consequences far heavier than imagined, and that courage and calm can turn even the most hostile confrontation into a moment of justice. If you believe that standing up for what's right can change everything, share this story and let others know that justice can prevail.
Upholding justice is a vital pursuit, and understanding acts as your armor. Thank you for joining us and demanding transparency.